Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September edition of Wine Not Whenever from Luna. And my name is Laura Botten. I am a certified specialist of wine and a sales consultant for Johnson Brothers of North Dakota. I have worked with Nikki at Luna for many years. We have traveled to wine country together, and we truly share a love of all things wonderful in the wine world. So I'm very happy to be hosting this edition of Wine Not Whenever. Nikki, we're kind of wanting to say, hey, this is our back to school treat for a lot of us who are sending kids back to school. I'm not. And even if you're not, hey, it's, every day is great for wine and cheese. So if you're watching this because you've already purchased your package and you're going to go through this cheese and wine pairing with me now, I want to thank you very much. If you are watching this video and seeing if you want to purchase this cheese and wine package, I would say get on the phone and call Luna right away because there are only 24 packages available. And these are some really fabulous wines and cheeses, as always. I'm going to start right off the bat with the fact that this first wine that we're going to drink, paired with the Délices de Bourgogne, which is absolutely amazing and one of my favorite Brie family cheeses on the planet. I'm going to be pairing with Sahura Viudas Reserva Heredad Brut. Now that's a mouthful, but this is a Spanish cava. So this is a sparkling wine from Spain that is produced in the traditional champagne method, very labor intensive, very expensive to produce because of simply the time and energy that goes into the long-term production of sparkling wine using the méthode champenoise, or the traditional method that is used in the Champagne region of France. One of the indications of cava, or one of the requirements of the Cava DO, which is actually 8 separate non-contiguous regions or areas in Spain, is that it has to be the traditional method and that it has to be aged a minimum of 9 months on the lees in the bottle. In addition to this, we are looking at using indigenous grape varietals, Macabeo, Parellada, and Jorello in Spanish cava. Chardonnay is allowed to varying degrees, and we are seeing some entrance of Pinot Noir as well. So, Sahura Viudas Reserva Heredad, absolutely stunning package. This is the crest of the estate. Beautiful metalwork. This makes for a great treat or a gift, but the package can only sell a wine once. The juice has to be phenomenal, and these guys do an amazing job. I was fortunate enough to visit the estate about 4 years ago on a trip to Spain, and we biked through the vineyards. They're extraordinarily ecologically friendly. They date back over 1,000 years. The estate is actually built around a watchtower, and that was present in Spain 1,000 years ago, and then there was an estate built there, and so it has a very long and rich history in the Penedès region right outside of Barcelona. I absolutely love Spanish cava. A very traditional and quintessential pairing for the Délices de Bourgogne would be champagne, but champagne is often cost prohibitive. It's expensive, and a lot of times that does become more of a treat. Now, an extremely viable alternative that really over delivers for the money is then deferring to Spanish cava, which uses the same method, and some different grape varietals. Now, being a warmer region than Champagne, the the Catalonia area, and the DOs that are the areas that would be inclusive of the Cava DO are going to be warmer growing regions than Champagne, which is actually quite cold. So not only do we have the entrance of grape varietals that are simply more fruit forward by their very nature, we also have a warmer growing climate, which is going to reduce the acidity in the wine and produce a wine that has a little bit more fruit structure and is a little less austere. I get a lot of people that say, I really don't understand why people are paying all this money for expensive champagne. It's very austere, right? So Spanish cava is an excellent route to go in terms of a lovely replacement for a traditional champagne. So the Délices de Bourgogne, absolutely beautiful, triple creme, whole fat cow's milk, and creme fraiche. And this was developed in the Burgundy region of France, d'Elis de Bourgogne. Really rich, creamy, buttery, decadent, lovely cheese, really a treat. And it's going to go beautifully with the sparkling wine because it's got a lot of fat, a lot of protein, and that's going to coat the palate. And it is going to, the bubbles that come through on the sparkling wine make for a great palate cleanser. And we're also going to get yeasty kind of bread dough qualities from this close interaction with the wine in the bottle and having that lees interaction. The other thing I will say about this Sahura Viudis Heredad Reserva Brut is that this wine actually ages on its lees in the bottle for a full 30 months. So this wine from vine to market literally is a 36-month, 3-year process before it actually gets to our glass and we're enjoying this absolutely phenomenal wine. So I always implore people to actually drink the wine first and then take a bite of the food when we are doing food and wine pairings or tastings, and then to go back and see how the food on the palate kind of changes the nature of the wine, how they are complementary, ideally, or perhaps how they end up being combative if it wasn't a great pairing or if the food and wine simply didn't work together. So we're going to get these beautiful, we had a little bit of lemon and citrus. We're going to get this brioche and bread dough quality from that interaction with the lees. We are going to get some nuttiness. But this is an absolutely stunning sparkling, an absolutely stunning cava, and I highly recommend anything from this house. Run out and snap it up. Their entry level or their first tier cavas run about $15. This retails for low to mid 20s in the market here. Absolutely amazing. Super refined, finessed bubbles. Not aggressive on the palate. You get this beautiful spritz, super palate cleansing, great long, beautiful finish. So I'm going to try a little bite of the cheese, this decadent, lovely. Melt in your mouth. Like, this is just like the height of, how do I want to say? Well, decadence. That was the word I used before. Absolutely fabulous. So delicious. So, Sahura Viudis Reserva Heredad Brut has always been one of my favorite Spanish Reserva cavas, and I highly recommend. You can obviously, you'll be able to get this at Bernie's if you choose to replenish your supply after this wine tasting, wine and cheese pairing. Our second pairing, we are going to go to a beautiful Garracha from the Catalonia region of Spain as well. Now, a very typical pairing with this would be a Rueda, a white Rueda made from the Verdeo grape. I decided to go a little different and stay in Spain proper, and we are going to do the Juan Gil Estate, Bodega Juan Gil Blanco. Now, if any of you have looked at the fine print anywhere on this bottle, you're going to see that this is actually part of the Muscat family, Moscato. And we're going, okay. Generally, we think of Moscato much like we think about Riesling, and all we think of is sweet, linear, bubbly, and basically sweet, right? Well, the fabulous thing is Muscat can be produced sweet to dry, still sparkling, and it's one of those grapes that I feel deserves a second look for those of us that are maybe a little bit more advanced in our wine drinking careers, and we feel like maybe we're beyond that. So this is actually a dry Muscat, and it is made, the Moscato family is actually a very ancient family. There are hundreds of varietals in the Muscat family, ranging from green grapes to very dark, almost black grapes. And so it speaks to the antiquity of the family of Muscat, or Moscato grapes. This is made with the finest Muscat Petite grain, and this is considered the best grape in the family. And this is grown in Humila, which is in the southern Spain, and a very warm growing region. So we do have ample fruit on this, and it is somewhat similar with the dry Muscat to doing a Verdejo in terms of like peach flavor profiles. The thing with Muscat, however, is that we tend to get this kind of beautiful musky, floral, perfumey quality that goes along with this wine. And with the Garracha, this is a Spanish goat cheese. And it's actually kind of a different type because it's a little bit firmer than we anticipate from goat cheese. It's a little less acidic. It's a little bit more flaky. Plus it has a rind that is, it can be a little bit herbaceous. It can be briny. And it has a rind that has a very earthy, woody component to it. So I wanted something that would actually have a little bit of funk to it with that perfumey quality to pair up with this cheese. We wanted to maintain some really nice bright acidity because goat cheese is and tends to be quite acidic. And like I said, we are staying in Spain. Now, the fun thing about Garracha is it was almost extinct. It had been forgotten about, and a bunch of young winemakers how do I want to say it? They discovered it and decided to bring it back in about 1981. So it was almost just gone from history. And these group of young winemakers, which we see this a lot with group of young cheesemakers, which we see a lot with young winemakers, really trying to save indigenous varietals of wine, just like these young cheesemakers are trying to save indigenous cheeses that have a long history and maybe are starting to get forgotten about. So I think the Juan Gil Blanco is going to be an absolutely fabulous pairing. For me, Spanish wines, the thing about Spanish wines is they simply over-deliver for the price point. They've been making wine for a long time. Maybe they haven't figured out yet that they can charge us a lot more, but I do feel like I'm a huge proponent of Spanish wines because they do simply over deliver for the money. You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck, and go explore some. For those who know me, you know I am a huge proponent of Spain and Spanish wines. So the Juan Gil Blanco, a dry Muscat. Just redolent with peach on the nose. Beautiful. Yet we have a really, you're getting that kind of musky, perfumey character. You're getting this really bright, crisp, mouth-watering finish. Note again, I sampled the wine first, and then I'm going to go to the cheese, and I'm going to go back and sample the wine. That's amazing. Worked out beautifully. Very happy. Verdejo, like I said, would have been another great pairing with this. A Pinot Gris, more vibrant, acidic, fruit-driven, white varietals would also work very well with this cheese. So moving on, we have a 10-year aged cheddar from North Country Creamery. And basically, absolutely quintessential pairing with aged cheddar is Cabernet Sauvignon. So I went to Justin Vineyards out of Paso Robles in Southern California, south of San Francisco, and pulled an icon. In 1981, the Justin family went in, planted 160 acres of vineyards, and with the intent of producing world-class Bordeaux varietals and wines. And in 1987, they released their iconic isosceles. So this is the Justin Cab 2017. And I really love Paso Robles as a region. I have visited there, and it's far more laid back and sleepy than, say, Napa or even Sonoma at this juncture. And the city is great, and the wineries are great, and they're making really fabulous red wines. And they're making great wines across the board. But the region is really wonderful for creating grapes that make beautiful red wines. It has the largest diurnal shift in all of the geographic regions in California, meaning that the temperature swing from day to overnight is extremely large. So you get this really intense sunlight and really intense and high heat during the days during the growing season, and then it drops 30, 40 degrees so that the grapes have a chance to rest. So we get this accelerated ripening during the day, yet we develop structure and finesse overnight when those temperatures drop and the grapes are able to rest, right? So we do have a really fabulous, beautiful cab here from Justin. And this is 18 months in American oak, 25% new, so they aren't overly heavy-handed with the oak, but it does have a really nice lengthy stay in oak to offer up some maturation on the wine. And like I said, this is a classic pairing with cheddar. We want something with big, bold flavors to match up with the big, bold flavors that we find in aged cheddar. As I said, Justin, iconic name, really one of the benchmarks of Paso Robles. If you haven't been out there, I would highly recommend going and definitely putting Justin on your list of wineries to visit. So, smells like Cabernet. Absolutely amazing. Getting big, intense, dark, red cherry, black cherry fruit character here. Some beautiful herbaceous notes. We've got some sweet tobacco. Oh, that smells divine. It's one of these you want to smell for 5 minutes before you even drink it, but I'll get on with it. Lovely. What we want here with the Cabernet is we have this beautiful relationship between food and wine. We often say in the industry, what grows together goes together. And basically, we have these young grippy tannins in this Cabernet. They are going to latch onto your palate and they're going to create a drying sensation. Tannins are more of a tactile sensation, not a flavor. And they literally dry out your palate. So if you've ever heard the saying, all this wine needs is a big steak, someone is saying like, okay, this is a little bit of a younger wine, grippier tannins. It's going to create some drying of the palate. And the beautiful thing about food and wine is then that when we go to eat some food that is high in fat and protein, the fats and proteins coat the palate, and I always say this, create kind of a slippery slide. It doesn't allow all those grippy tannins to actually capture onto the palate because those fats and proteins coat the palate. So it really changes the nature of the wine. So again, let's taste the wine first, and then we're going to grab a piece of this absolutely amazing cheddar. I snuck a bite of it earlier. I snuck a bite of all of them earlier, but literally just opened the wine. So I haven't been cheating on that end. So we take a bite of this. We're going to find those beautiful cheese crystals in there. I love that little bit of crunch, and it just adds such a gorgeous textural component to the wine. And so delicious. Now we're going to do the wine, and it's going to be almost not a completely different experience, but it certainly is going to alter the wine. And anytime you're doing food and wine tasting, move back and forth. It's going to be very evolutionary on the palate, and you're going to see that there is just this lovely, lovely relationship between food and wine, and they're meant to go together. It's great to sit down and just open a bottle of wine and have a glass, but these wonderful pairings can really take you to new heights and leave you with experiences that you may never anticipate. Fabulous. Well, I appreciate you joining me on this venture. Please, if you haven't gone out and gotten this wine pairing or wine and cheese pairing, call Luna right away and get yours ordered up. Literally 24 only. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the wines. All available at Bernie's. Justin runs about $24.99. And what will surprise you is this wonderful wine. I'm going to shock you. We're looking at about a $9.99, $10.99 price tag on the shelf. So I hope you enjoy this food and wine pairing, and I hope to see you in person very soon at another event. Thank you.